Hello friends, I am Shelly Clough and today we are going to do another one of my 4 cards out of 1 painting series. I did several of these at Christmas time. This is not exactly what we're doing, it's just to give you an idea. This is sort of a concept I was playing with and I thought it would be perfect for this 4 cards out of 1 painting sort of series. So let's go ahead and walk through the supplies that we're going to use. We're going to make a cute little Valentine's design today. So the first thing I have is a sheet of Canson XL watercolor paper. This is a 9 by 12 size. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark a little grid on it. So I have my little paper trimmer with a measuring tool on it. So I'm going to come here to 4.5, which is half of 9. And I'm just going to really lightly mark that with a pencil. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to mark at the 6-inch point really lightly with a pencil. This is just going to help me to know where my paper is going to end up getting partitioned, and it'll help me keep things balanced. And then I'm just going to lightly erase if any of those spots are kind of dark. I'm just going to lightly erase so that they don't end up being visible through my final product. Okay, so I have that ready now. What I'm also going to do on this particular painting is tape down some of the edges. Because I'm going to be painting a very wet style on this, I want to adhere my paper down to the surface, and I'm going to do that with just the smallest little margin on the edges. So you see how I kind of hold this tape really tight to the edge, try to get kind of a straight edge. It's okay if it's not perfect because we do trim these down just a little bit, but I do want to tape that down to help my paper stay kind of flat. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, now I've got my paper all taped up and I'm going to grab a nice large brush. By the way, any supplies I use today, I will link down below if you need anything. So for a brush today, I'm going to use a nice big one. This is a size 12 Princeton Elite brush, and for paints, I'm using what I call my starter palette. All these colors are by Winsor Newton and they're linked below. And then I also sell this exact palette if you want to use exactly what I'm using. So the first thing we're going to do before we paint is I have a little wax crayon here. You can just use a white crayon. You can also use masking fluid. So I have a couple different types of masking fluid. This one is by Schminky and it's kind of fun to use. You can also have some where you actually dip your paintbrush into them. So you can make your marks. We're going to make little hearts. So I'll show you the difference on this little scrap paper. This one was made in masking fluid. So it has really crisp edges and you don't get that kind of textured look that you get from the crayons. But when you use the masking fluid, you have to wait for it to dry completely, the masking fluid to dry completely, and then you have to wait for the paint to dry completely. It just makes the process take a lot longer. So the purpose of these cards is to be able to make 4 cards really quickly. So I figured the crayons are a better fit and they add sort of a cute homemade dimension to things. But just so you know, there is another option if you don't like the look of a crayon. So I'm going to use my crayon and I am going to get playful with some hearts on here. So I'm just going to go through, and it's kind of, this is the tricky part because you can't see the hearts real well when you add them. So I'm just sort of having fun, placing some hearts here and there. And what I'm trying to avoid is not too much of hearts crossing this line. I feel like the hearts look best when they don't get chopped in half. So I'm not actually going to draw many hearts on these kind of dividing lines. I'm going to try to concentrate them in the 4 quadrants. So I'm just doing a variety of sizes of hearts, and they are going to be pretty sporadic because it's hard for me to keep track of where I've put them. But I'm just going to throw some hearts here and there, and we'll see what happens. It'll be part of the fun of this project. Now that I've got that done, I'm just going to take a paper towel and wipe really gently for any crayon residue that's maybe somewhere I don't want it or is going to block my paint's ability to adhere where I do want the paint to adhere to. And if you don't know already, the reason the crayon works is because it's basically just a resist layer for your watercolor paint, because water and wax don't mix, and so the wax prevents the watercolor from coloring that section. So now we get to just play with fun colors. This is kind of like the tag tutorial I did the other day, if you saw that one, where we're just going to make fun blooms of color. So I'm going to start with this fun quinacridone magenta color, and I'm just going to start kind of swirling that around. And it's fun because you get to find where you put your little hearts. So I'm just going to sort of doing a swirling, mopping motion with my brush. And I'm going to switch to some Opera Rose color, trying to get a variation here. And you want to work as quickly as you can, because the longer, as your paper starts to dry, it will make it a little harder for these colors to merge with one another. So I like this kind of swirling motion. I feel like it helps create more kind of playful, organic changes in the colors. So I just grabbed some alizarin crimson, just going with that for a minute here. Before I get too far, I'm also going to grab some lemon yellow so I can get some peachy tones happening. All the fun little hearts we're finding. And come way over here. I am going to drop a couple little extra bits of pigment here and there, just so that I have kind of some interesting, fun things that happen to my paint as it's drying. Get some more of that yellow over here. And I like to, when I'm blending colors together, I feel like it works nicely to sort of make little tendrils going into the other colors. So almost little lines like this. I get some alizarin crimson, kind of like X sort of shapes. And then you get some fun, you get that cloudy galaxy sort of feel. There's all my little hearts that we're finding. I'm going to do some cadmium red here. Can you tell that I like pink more than red? Red is such a good Valentine's color, but I just have a hard time using it because I like pink so much. I'm glad that pink is also a Valentine's color. Okay, it's looking kind of fun. Let's see, I'm just going to wet some areas that are drying in ways that I don't love. We'll add a little more fun stuff over here, kind of on the edge. So I just dropped a bunch of extra color, and then I'm going to take a clean, damp brush. Just use that to kind of wet this whole section, so that all of that gets a little more, it all stays kind of organic looking. All right, now I'm going to let this layer dry, and then we'll decide if we need to do anything else to it. All right, so we are all dry now, and I feel like we need a little bit more to kind of jazz this up. So I'm going to switch brushes to a size 6 Aqua Elite, and I thought it would be fun to draw some additional hearts, kind of like these tags that I made the other day, on top of this layer of watercolor. So we'll have some of the resist hearts and then some painted hearts that we'll do. So the thing is, if we're making the painted hearts, we want to make sure that their color is pigmented enough that it will show through against this bottom layer. So here I've just mixed some quinacridone magenta and alizarin crimson. And I just have a fairly concentrated amount of that. And I'm just going to make some hearts on here. So I'm going to start. I feel like tall, skinny hearts are fun. I'm making these ones kind of little so that I can fit several of them on any one. Because remember, each quarter of this will be a card. And so I want to, have enough going on each particular card. So I'm going to do a few of those there, and then maybe I'll switch and do another color somewhere as well. Already liking how these are looking. Okay, now I'm gonna do, let's see what kind of pink we can get here. So I'm gonna take a bunch of Opera Rose, some quinacridone magenta, maybe even some purple. I'm gonna go into Purple Lake here and add that to my quinacridone magenta just to get a different tone happening. I'm gonna add a little bit of ultramarine blue to that, really deepen up my purple. And we're going to do a few of those, and you'll see there's a big difference in watercolor when it's wet versus when it's dry. It does lighten quite a bit, so just keep that in mind. You almost want the color to look scary when you put it on for your layer 2, and then it will look, you know, normal once it dries. So let's do some little purple hearts here. And if it's hard for you to make these hearts with a brush, you could also add them with pen. I think maybe even using like our gold pens that we used at Christmas time would be really fun for this. Okay, so I'm just going through, adding a few more of these hearts here and there. And then we will let that dry. And then I think we can peel and chop and adhere these onto our little cards. I think that's pretty good. Now again, for some fun here, if you want, we could add some gold splatter. Just makes everything fun. So I'm going to do that just because why not? So I'm going to swirl my brush in here. I'll link this color down below. And I'm just going to let that splatter have fun. I'm letting my brush stay pretty wet because I want some bigger splatters on this one. The more wet your brush is with the paint, the bigger your splatters will be. Okay, now I'm going to clean up and let this all dry, and then we will be ready to chop it up. Okay, everything is all dry. Now we are ready to take off our tape and chop this up. So I'm just going to scoot my paint out of the way here and take my tape off. Another little trick, if you do it at a 45-degree angle, it is not going to be as likely to tear your paper. Okay, so now I'm going to bring my paper trimmer back, and we are first just going to cut this into quadrants, and then we will trim it down a little bit to fit on our card blanks. So I cut it at 6 inches on that side, and then at the 4.5-inch mark on this side. I'm also going to trim off these little edges. Trim off that white part and that white part. Look at, isn't that so fun? I feel like this would be super fun to do. This would be super fun to do with kids. Love all the fun color variations in this one. Okay, look how cute these are. Now, if you've been here before, you've seen these card blanks that I have. So they're just these cute craft paper card blanks that I ordered on Amazon. I'll link them below. And then we're just going to adhere this little segment to the front of it. I have an adhesive roller I'm going to use for that. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, there is card number 1. Look how fun that turned out. Now we're going to finish the rest of them. All right, here are our 4 cards that we made out of one painting. Look how fun and colorful and playful. You can see all the great texture that happened as those colors dried on the background amount. Looks like Valentine's fireworks or something, and I love the gold sparkle that we have on those. So these were so much fun. I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you had a good time, I hope you subscribe to the channel. I would love to see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.